the royal challenge far across the galaxy. There was a shining planet known for its golden skies and glowing rivers. On this planet lived the mighty alien king, a ruler so powerful that even the stars seemed to bow before him. He had fought wars, built empires, and created peace across 10 worlds. But for all his victories, nothing was more precious to him than his 3 daughters. The princesses were famous across galaxies, not only for their beauty but for their wisdom. The first daughter was strong and clever, the second was thoughtful and calm, and the third was brave and kind. Many kings, warriors, and travelers from distant stars dreamed of marrying them. The alien king believed their marriage would be a grand event, uniting kingdoms and building stronger alliances. So he called for a royal gathering in his crystal palace, inviting suitors from across the universe. The palace glittered like a diamond under the twin suns. Inside, alien nobles filled the hall, their voices buzzing with excitement. The alien king sat on his throne of silver stone, his daughters by his side. When the time came, he raised his hand, and the room grew silent. "My daughters," he said with a deep voice, "you are old enough to marry, and today you will declare your wishes, so that the strongest suitors may prove themselves worthy." The crowd cheered, warriors pounded their chests, and princes smiled with pride. They expected simple wishes, perhaps a request for strength, wealth, or power. But the first daughter stood tall, her eyes glowing like twin stars. Her voice rang clear through the hall. "I will only marry the one who can bring me a star in his hand." The hall erupted in shock, suitors whispering, nobles gasping. A star in the hand, impossible, unthinkable. The alien king frowned, his heavy crown tilting as he leaned forward. He turned to his second daughter, hoping she would be more reasonable, but she lifted her chin with quiet grace. "I will marry only the one who can control time itself." The silence in the hall grew heavier. Warriors shifted uneasily, and the king's advisors exchanged nervous glances. Time was the most feared force in the universe. Even gods could not command it. Yet his daughter had spoken with no doubt in her voice. The king's anger rose, but before he could speak, his youngest daughter stepped forward. Her eyes were calm, but her words shook the room. "I will only marry someone who can protect not just me, but the entire universe." The crowd gasped louder than ever before, their voices a storm of disbelief. The king's hands gripped the arms of his throne, his face hard as stone. These were not wishes, they were challenges, perhaps even insults to every suitor present. The nobles whispered among themselves. "Madness," one said. "No one can bring a star." "Foolish pride," another muttered. "Even time cannot be chained. And to protect the universe, that is not a husband, that is a god." The hall shook with laughter and anger. Some suitors leaving in outrage, others swearing they would try. The alien king raised his hand again, silencing the noise. His voice thundered through the palace. "My daughters, what is this? Why do you make such impossible demands? Do you mock your father and his court?" But the princesses did not bow their heads. The eldest said, "Father, I do not seek wealth, for wealth fades like dust." The second added, "I do not seek power, for power always breaks." And the youngest finished, "I do not seek armies, for armies can fall. I seek someone greater, someone who can give more than promises." The king's anger turned into confusion. He looked at his daughters and saw no fear, no foolishness, only determination. He wondered if they knew something he did not, if their strange wishes hid a secret truth. But the hall demanded answers, suitors shouting, "Who can meet such demands?" The alien king stood tall, his voice echoing, "Very well, let it be as they wish. Let the galaxies know any who can fulfill these demands may claim the hand of my daughters." The crowd roared, some with excitement, others with disbelief. Messengers raced to distant worlds, carrying news of the challenge. Across the stars, warriors sharpened blades, scientists prepared machines, and dreamers whispered of glory. But in the hearts of many, doubt remained. Could such wishes ever be fulfilled? Or had the princesses cursed their own fates with impossible demands? The alien king sat back on his throne, his eyes heavy with worry. His daughters stood proudly, their faces calm, but inside their hearts burned with secret hope. They had set a challenge no ordinary suitor could meet. Only someone truly different, someone beyond kings and warriors, could stand before them. And so began a storm that would shake galaxies, a royal challenge that would bring strangers, heroes, and perhaps even humans into their lives. The stage was set, the wishes declared, and the game of destiny had begun. The impossible quest's news of the alien king's daughters spread like fire across the galaxy. Every world, every kingdom, every star system heard of the strange challenge. The princesses had demanded the impossible, and yet the reward was greater than gold. To marry into the royal family of the most powerful king in the galaxy was a dream many could not ignore, and so suitors came. From desert planets came warlords with blazing swords. From icy moons came princes with armies of steel. From distant stars came scientists with machines that glowed like suns. They arrived in great ships, landing in the crystal city with pride and arrogance. The first daughter waited for those who would bring her a star. Some suitors carried glowing crystals, claiming they had trapped starlight inside. Others brought burning spheres of energy, but none could hold a real star. One warrior held out a ball of fire, shouting, "Here is the star you asked for." But the flame died in seconds, leaving only smoke. The court laughed. The princess shook her head. "A flame is not a star," she said, calm and unshaken. The second daughter waited for one who could control time. Inventors built strange devices, clocks that ticked backward, machines that slowed the flow of water. One suitor stood proudly and pressed a button. The room seemed to freeze for a breath, but when the machine sparked and broke, time rushed forward again. The suitor fell to his knees. Defeated, the princess spoke gently. "Time is not a toy. You cannot command it with gears and wires." The third daughter, the youngest, waited for one who could protect the universe. Generals came with maps of starfleets, promising to guard her with endless armies. Some spoke of weapons so strong they could burn entire worlds. But when the princess asked, "Can your armies stop a falling star? Can they protect the innocent from themselves?" they were silent. One by one, they failed. Their promises empty, their strength shallow. The alien king grew restless, his anger rising. "Fools," he roared, "you waste my time with tricks and lies. Leave my sight." Suitors left in shame, their ships flying back into the stars. The court whispered that no one would ever succeed. Perhaps the daughters had doomed themselves to loneliness. But then, one day, a small ship arrived. Unlike the grand vessels of princes and kings, it was simple, worn, and carried no banners of power. From it stepped a traveler, not tall, not armored, not glowing with wealth. He was human, a creature most in the galaxy ignored. The court burst into laughter. "What is this?" they mocked. "A weak human dares to claim the daughters of the alien king." But the daughters did not laugh. Instead, they watched him with quiet curiosity. The human bowed, his voice steady, though the crowd mocked. "I have come not with armies or machines, but with myself," he said. The alien king's eyes burned with fury. "You dare stand here with empty hands?" The human smiled faintly. "Not empty, only honest." The first daughter asked, "Can you bring me a star in your hand?" The human lifted a lantern he carried. Inside it burned a small flame. "No star can be held," he said, "but I can bring you light. The same light that guides travelers through the darkest nights." The hall grew silent. Some laughed, but the princess only smiled. The second daughter asked, "Can you control time itself?" The human shook his head. "Time belongs to no one, but I can promise to value every moment, to make each second matter." The court sneered, but her eyes softened. For his answer was different from all others. The youngest daughter stepped forward, her voice clear. "Can you protect not just me, but the entire universe?" The human's face grew serious, his voice firm. "I have no armies, no weapons to burn stars, but I will protect with my life. I will stand when others fall. I will fight not for power, but for peace." The princesses exchanged glances, their lips curving into faint smiles. They had waited for someone like him, someone who spoke with courage, not pride. The alien king's throne trembled as he rose. His voice thundered across the hall. "You speak well, human, but words are easy, and promises are wind. If you truly claim you can meet my daughter's wishes, then prove it." The king pointed to the stars beyond the palace, his eyes cold as steel. "You will face a trial, a test of life and death. If you survive, you may stand again in this hall. If you fail, your body will be lost to the void." The court erupted in noise, some cheering, others laughing at the human's doom. But the princesses stayed silent, their eyes fixed on him, waiting for his reply. The human bowed once more, his voice steady. "I accept," he said. "For what is life without courage?" The alien king's face was hard, but deep in his eyes, a spark of curiosity glowed. Perhaps this strange human was more dangerous than all the princes and warriors who had already failed. And so the impossible quest began, with a simple man and 3 impossible wishes. The great test and twist. The human traveler stood in the great hall, his heart steady though the entire court mocked him. The alien king's challenge was clear. He would be sent to a place where even the strongest warriors had perished. If he survived, he would prove his worth. If he failed, his name would be forgotten among the stars. The princesses watched in silence, their eyes full of hidden hope. They had waited for someone different, and perhaps this human was the answer they sought. The alien king raised his staff. The floor of the palace split open, revealing a glowing map of the galaxy. He pointed to a place at the very edge, a cursed zone where storms, monsters, and black holes twisted reality itself. No one has ever returned from there. The king thundered, "Go, and prove your words, human." The human bowed. "I accept," he said calmly. He entered his small ship, the 3 princesses by his side, for the king had declared they would witness the trial themselves. The ship lifted into the skies, passing the golden towers and leaving the safe light of their world behind. The journey was long. The stars outside the windows turned dark and twisted. Time seemed to stretch and break. Minutes felt like hours, hours felt like seconds. Strange voices whispered in the void. Shadows moved outside the glass. The first princess shivered. "This is not just space. It is a nightmare." The human looked at her and smiled gently. "Nightmares only have power if we believe them." The ship entered the cursed zone, and the trial began. First came the storm, a cosmic hurricane of fire and ice, tearing at the hull. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed, metal cracked. The princesses cried out in fear, but the human took control, his hands steady on the controls. "Hold on," he said. "Fear makes storms stronger, but courage calms the wind." And somehow, through his steady will, the ship broke through the fire, leaving the storm behind. Next came the monsters, massive creatures with wings like galaxies and eyes burning like suns. They surrounded the ship, their roars echoing across the void. The second princess whispered, "No army could fight them." The human stood tall, his voice firm. "Then we will not fight, we will endure." He dimmed the ship's lights, slowed its engines, and let the monsters pass. The creatures roared, but they did not attack, as if respecting his courage. But the final challenge was the most dangerous. The ship was pulled toward a black hole, its endless darkness swallowing everything. Time twisted, light bent, the stars themselves stretched into rivers of fire. The youngest princess clutched his arm. "No one can survive this, not even you." The human's voice was calm. "Protection is not about never falling, it is about standing again. Even when the universe tries to crush you." He pressed his hands to the controls. The lamp of the ship glowed, and with a final surge, he pulled free. The ship trembled, but it escaped, leaving the black hole behind. When they emerged, the stars shone clear again, brighter than ever. The princesses stared at him in awe, their hearts full of respect. The first daughter whispered, "He brought me light when no star could shine." The second said, "He gave meaning to every moment when time tried to break us." The youngest smiled, her eyes glowing, "And he protected not just me, but all of us, even against the universe itself." They returned to the Crystal Palace, the court silent as they stepped inside. The alien king rose from his throne, his eyes searching the human's face. The human bowed low, his body tired but his spirit unbroken. The king's voice rumbled, "You went where no warrior could. You survived what no prince dared face. You protected my daughters, not with armies or lies, but with courage." The hall was silent, then filled with thunderous applause. The nobles who mocked him now bowed their heads. The alien king raised his hand, and the hall grew quiet once more. "This human," he declared, "has proven greater than kings and warriors. He has met the strange wishes of my daughters, not with power, but with heart, and that is true strength." The princesses smiled, their strange marriage wishes fulfilled, for they had not sought impossible things, they had sought a soul strong enough to understand, and in the end, it was not riches, weapons, or armies that won their hearts. It was the courage of a lone human, who stood where others fell. And so began a new story, a bond between humans and aliens, forged not in war or greed, but in courage, love, and destiny.